Super, bonjour, hello. So I will speak in English, but it's very easy for French people to understand me in my English, so fine. Okay, so my name is Guy MARMORAT. So I've been working in the security space for 25 years, something like that. First as a solution vendor. My background is mostly exit point, audit trails, elevated authority, SIM integration, MFA. And then since a few years ago, so I started a new career of consultant. So I'm helping my customers and partners to improve their security, simply. Maybe I will take the microphone. Hein? Ah, plus doucement? D'accord. I have to be slow. Okay, so let's start. So today is the MFA on IBM. So I have a small introduction, very short. I don't want to spend too much time on the general statement on MFA. And then we will go deeper in the MFA 7.6 in IBM. But I still want to introduce some ideas about the MFA statements. This is probably the most challenging slide to my whole presentation because I'm sure most of you are implementing, I would say, password complexity, minimum length, maybe some characters that should be part of the password, and then an automatic expiration. So this is, I mean, we have been doing that for decades, okay? Now, I mean, maybe 2 years ago, another tendency is starting, mostly from the US, and the NIST, the National Institute of Standard and Technology, is reinventing what should be a good password, and that's interesting. What is in red is mandatory from them, and what is in orange is just recommended. So if you take a look at those small statements, it goes not exactly the way we are doing right now, or most of us, I would say. So about the length of the password, so we all agree that we need to have 8 characters, but better to have 15. And there is no need to have a very, very long password. I mean, for security, doesn't help a lot. But the interesting thing is that the password complexity is absolutely not anymore required. So you can just use letters, numbers, maybe capital letters, and but not, you know, special characters. That doesn't help. And the most interesting thing for me is about the expiration. So if they have seen that it's counterproductive to force the users to change the password every, let's say, 90 days, for example. The reason is simple, because when you as a user have found a good and strong password that you are able to remember, why should you change it? There is absolutely no good reason for that. The only good reason for that is that there is a suspicion in your company or a suspicion on you as a user. So it's not a decision, an automatic decision. It should be done, I mean, on a case by case. So, but the most interesting thing is this one. Oops. Okay, the password should be no trivial, no breach. So that maybe it's not easy to do this one. So we will need some sort of interface to see if it's breach on the dark web. And then the other one, not trivial, maybe an exit point. Why not? We have solutions on IBM to help us to do that. So as you see here, it goes not exactly the way we think, simply because phishing is the major entry point for stealing credentials. So complexity password doesn't help for that. So an idea would be, but again, this is just a perspective, that if we have, for example, a passphrase, simple, and with an MFA at the top of that, it could be efficient. Again, some people disagree about that because in the NIST guide, there are some sort of level of authentication. You have level 1, 2, 3, and to go to level 2 and 3, we will see that even the TOTP code or algorithm is not recommended. So, but still is much better than nothing. So 2 slides just to define what is MFA. So simply, MFA is using multiple factors during an authentication negotiation. What are the factors? So we have the factor of knowledge. So this is something I know. For example, my user ID, my password, my token code. This is something I know. And something I have. So this is my mobile phone, for example, but it could be a token. It could be a piece of paper, even a piece of paper. It's possible. And something you are. So this is, for example, your biometric information, like your fingerprints or whatever. So which means that the typical authentication process on IBM is not MFA, because there are 2 elements from the same factor. But there is another piece of definition that sometimes people are missing. This is the fact that it should be verified in 1 step. If you take a look at the left side of the screen, so you see here that we are going through a first step where we control the user and the password, and then we go through this process, and then we require an additional factor, for example. So if there is something going wrong somewhere, you can guess which step was wrong. So that's not the real definition. It's still better, but it's not MFA. MFA is really this, which means that in 1 step only, you have to present all the elements. So right now we have 3 elements coming from 2 factors, and then it is verified in 1 step. And if there is a failure, so the user has no clue about which factor or which element is wrong. So this is important because some regulations need to strongly have MFA, like PCI DSS, for example. So no, I should, yeah. Okay. That's all I have to say on MFA in general. Otherwise, I will spend too much time on it. Okay, so let's dig now in the 7.6 setup. So I organize this presentation in all the tasks we need to do in order to implement a typical project on how to roll out MFA on IBM. So the administrator step first. I should do this. Okay. Before that, I will present you the general statements on MFA on IBM in the 7.6. This is free. This is part of the operating system. Oh, that's sometimes it. I will keep this one. Finally. Oops. Ah. C'est bon? And so, is okay? Yeah? Okay. Okay, so it's free of charge. It's included in the operating system. It's enabling MFA doesn't mean that it will be available for every user. So you will decide which user have to be challenged by MFA. It is supported by 2 different layers. So in the operating system and SST, they are completely separated layers in which the MFA is implemented. So there is no, I would say, no relationship between those 2 layers. This MFA support only TUTP, time-based one-time password. So that's really important to keep that in mind, because sometimes customers could have other requirements. So that's important to get that. There is no infrastructure change, which means that at the time I have set up my, for example, Google Authenticator, my IBM is already ready. Then I don't need any authentication server or whatever in the middle between the IBM and my client. So that's important, because if you have a simple configuration, then it could be rolled out very quickly. It's supposed to be improved in future release, and so I take the opportunity to present a very good resource if you have to do this project. So this is the Red Book, Features and Functions 7.6, and we are very honored to have 2 of those writers, Marius Leroux and Steve Bradshaw, here with us. So they have participated to this guide. So very, very important guide, so you can rely on it if you need to deploy this statement. One thing important to mention is that in their documentation, those guys have said one thing. They said that support MFA will likely continue to change over time. So it shows that we are really at the beginning of something, and then maybe in 6 months or in 1 year, my presentation will not exactly be accurate. Maybe there will be some other additions that IBM will bring with TR or whatever. If I believe correctly, so there was a strong customer requirement about this feature, so especially coming from user community like large user group. So it's not portable to 7.5 because it was really a big work to implement it for them. And MFA is part of 7.6. It means also that in 7.6 you have many more security features that are very interesting to implement. That's not the purpose of my presentation, but Steve will touch on it tomorrow, and probably Carol as well. So that there are a lot of benefits for you to move to 7.6. All right, so this is Raoul, the powerful administrator on IBM. Big guy, yeah, sure. So Raoul is in charge of this project. Okay, so first of all, the prerequisite for him. So he has to be at Q-Security level 40. In general, it's not a problem, but as Dominic mentioned, sometimes could be, but okay. That's the default value, at least. Then you have to be at QPassword level 4. That's not the default. So you have to migrate from 3 to 4. 3 is the default value. And then you have to change a security attribute. So it's called additional sign-on factor, and then enable it. And then following by an IPL to activate those values. At the time it's done, it's possible to use MFA. It's just what it means, right? And in addition to that, you can lock the value by the SST parameter. So you can say nobody can change it, or you let it open. It's up to you. As a prerequisite optional, since time TOTP, time-based one-time password is based on the time, it's much better to have NTP activated. So you have all your infrastructure sharing the same time, if possible. And TLS, even if it's not absolutely mandatory, it's much better, because we will see later in this presentation that it gives you some options like HCS, so you can configure HCS. If you want to do that, TLS is absolutely mandatory. So now Raoul needs to check the systems he has configured. So he has 3 ways to do that. He can use the 5250 command display security attribute. So it gives you okay, the 3 different values here, and then the SST one. In navigators as well, you have the information, and the SQL service. In fact, they have updated all the interfaces, so you can use the best interface you want. Everything is updated. Okay, so now at the time this is prepared, we need to go at the user level, which means that we have already thought about who will be challenged by MFA. And in this case, the user will own his TOTP key, so they have to register their own TOTP key by themselves. So any user, any valid user can create a key, replace a key, verify a key, even remove a key, because it's own key, if it hasn't been yet decided to be used in the enforcement. There are 3 methods available to do that. So you can use Navigator, the easiest one. And please don't change the functions to protect the access to Navigator, because if you are not registered, you will automatically go to the page, landing page, where you will be able to change or to manage your TOTP keys. Sorry, there is just one. So don't change it, right? Oops, don't change it. The other thing is that the change TOTP commands, so all of them are public use, so whether the command or the SQL service. Okay, this one is allow limited user no, but it's just normal It means that everybody can really check or create their own key. So MFA cannot be enforced if the step is not completed. I have two small reminders here, just to have in mind, because there is now some sort of parallel between a password and a TOTP key. So an administrator using the change a user profile command can change a password of somebody else, but for a TOTP key, no. There is no command that allows you to change a TOTP value. Just to remember. So a TOTP key can be generated by the system, which means the IBM automatically. That's the default value, start gen. But it can also be generated by another generator, another application, and you can type the key that has been generated by something else, right? So you have the choice. It's a 32-character length string combining letters and numbers, and it should be kept secret. That's the key. It is encoded using QPassword level 4, so that's exactly the same method as the password, so it's encoded strictly the same. And you cannot display it at the time the negotiation has been done, right? And then the client will generate every 30 seconds a code, a 6-character code. So every second you have the cycle, okay? So that's how you see here. This is the way it works. So in addition to the major TOTP key, there is also a recovery key of 64 characters available just for emergency situations. Okay, so we have Jessica. So Jessica is a big fan of Navigator, so she will sign on to Navigator. She's, by the way, a big fan of Tim Rowe and Steve Bradshaw. So they love it, by the way. All right, so she log on here. She has no registration in the function. So she goes directly to this menu, and then she can manage a key, no problem. And then at the end, she can scan a key, so to just add the key to the client. So that's Jessica. If Jessica is registered in Navigator, no problem. She can also go to My Work and then additional authentication factor, and then she will go back to the same menu. Now we have Kevin, and Kevin is a big 5250 guy. So we have all at least one Kevin in our team, but sometimes I am a Kevin, sometimes. And then he can do exactly the same. So he can use the command and do start gen, or he can type the key, but he cannot scan, of course, but he can type and create manually, register the key to his client. And then Marceline is a very elegant lady, so she loves SQL services, and then she can do exactly the same with SQL services to register. Everybody is registered now. So the idea is that they can also verify what they have registered. So they have access to a self-verification facility the same way. So either using Navigator, the command, or the SQL service. So there are different commands. So the command is now check TOTP, and the SQL service is check TOTP as well. So since I am the owner of the key, I know exactly what the answer is. My password is not correct, my TOTP is not correct, or my TOTP key does not exist, because I am checking my key. If I will authenticate, I will never get the information like that. I will just say failure, right? A quick reminder here, an administrator cannot guess a password. I mean, we are in QPassword level 4, okay, with this rule. It's not possible. They cannot also see a TOTP key, just as a reminder. But there are some options that can help, and this is what we call impersonation. They can be helped to guess a TOTP key from somebody else, or at least to try to guess, or to change TOTP of somebody else. The technique used is, okay, there are multiple techniques. I'm just presenting two, because we all know this. This is the set session authorization in SQL. If I am an all-object user profile, I can become anybody on the system. And then I can be Dominic, and I can change the TOTP of Dominic on his back. Okay? I can also verify TOTP of Dominic. I can make a script and try to guess the existing TOTP of Dominic. I have 30 seconds. In fact, I have more than 30 seconds because I have the back and the future. So I have quite a nice window that allows me maybe to guess the TOTP of Dominic. But the thing is that in 7.6, we have a technique very useful to avoid that. This is the function QIBM run on the user no authority. And it will be able to block any impersonation techniques. Right? The PW entry type in the system audit journal has been also improved just to get the new violation types. And we also always have exit points available, just in case you, on the top of that, remember what Dominic's saying, and Carol is also saying the same, multiple layer of defense, you know? So that's another layer. The sign-on attempts not valid counter is not updated in this scenario. So it means that a brute force attack is theoretically possible. So the same thing here with changing TOTP key. The techniques to prevent that is the same. So it's to activate this function. And we have a new subtype of entry type, which is key. And then you can monitor the changes brought to the TOTP keys user by user. All right, so now we are in a position where we can really tell the user, tomorrow we will start to challenge you with MFA because the system is ready, the users have registered their own key, we can go. So number one, this is the planning, because we have to communicate properly with the user, educating them, because we can imagine that the first weeks of implementation, it will be kind of a nightmare in the company. So we have to be ready with hotline, with support, education, and everything, right? Just to make this process as smooth as we can. Then the only way to activate is to use the change user profile command with the authentication method, TOTP. That's the way. Just forget this one for now. The interval, we will see it later. But this is the activation of the TOTP. Before that, nothing happened. Or quite nothing, I mean, but for the authentication process, just nothing. After that, yes, it will be enforced, right? So it means that if I do this command and the user has forgotten to register the key, I will just get this message, right? So it's not possible to activate it. Once it's activated, so like this, okay, it's successful, and then I can check it. The user info SQL service and the user info SQL service basic is updated, so you can see which user has registered the key, which user has been enforced for the key, etc. So it's easy with multi-criteria SQL, easy SQL to check the system. I prepared with Steve's machine. I have prepared two different scenarios. So one is just technical, trying to have all the combination possible between TOTP, RECFAC intervals to see how the system behaves. And I have another one, which is more realistic. So to set up this, I just do this. It's easy. Change user profile. No other way. Easy, right? And then if you take a look at the change user profile command, so you see here the two values, TOTP, RECFAC, and this is the interval here. We will talk later. Just mentioning that the authentication method for the create is just has RECFAC value, not the TOTP one, because we're just creating a profile. Doesn't make sense to enforce because we are just creating. So now a more realistic scenario is this one. So we have the payroll group. Sorry. So the payroll group, so they are using a 5250 application because they are running sensitive information, it will be challenged using a TOTP and a RSA key. The sales group, they are using a Java application, just challenged by TOTP, and the IT administrators, just RSA. And for the service accounts, we don't touch anything. So we keep the service accounts. So an easy way to roll out this kind of scenario, this is to use the scalar function QCMD exec embedded in SQL. And let's say I do a change user profile for the members of payroll, and I'm just reading the user info. So it's really easy to do, right? And this is the result here. So that's the command that has been built, and this is the return code of the command. 1 means that the execution is okay. I will not detail this because I will talk later about this one. So now Raoul needs to check, because the first few weeks it will be kind of bumpy. So what are the methods to help Raoul to test the users that are complaining, etc. So we have the display user profile, of course, which gives us the information we need. We have the display auth user. Okay, that's an old command. By pressing F11, you can have access to the TOTP information. For fun, we have the retrieve user profile, maybe for Kevin. And we have navigator and the SQL services. So we have plenty of possibilities to check the system. Okay, now let's see MFA in action. So I have separated screen between the interfaces that have been changed and others that are not changed but compatible, and others that are not compatible. So in fact, IBM is owning not too many interfaces to authenticate the system. So these are the interfaces that have been adjusted by IBM. So the 50 to 51, you see now appearing a new field, additional factor. This is a 64-character field. Be careful about the model. Now we have a QD sign-on 3 member. So if you need to customize your sign-on screen, take this one and not the QD sign-on 2 or previous one. And this is the sign-on server, and this is the navigator. That's it. So separate field for the additional factor. For the interface that are not owned by IBM, and there are a lot. So again, it's not an exhaustive presentation. This is just based on my test. There are more protocols that I haven't checked, right? So we have the FTP, and so if you see, for example, RigSec, this is the way you put the TOTP appended to the password. So this is the way it should be done in these interfaces. The password, colon, and the TOTP code. Just a small comment on it. So the maximum length is not anymore 128 for the password. It is 121. Or even if it's, but it's good to have that in mind. We have 7 characters reserved for that, right? And then you just put the password with this syntax. So okay, this is RigSec, for example, SSH using password, the DRDA with the connector to. I push also the pleasure just to test a server authentication entry. It works. It works. Okay, it doesn't work in the real life, but this scenario for 30 seconds, it works. Okay, so that's the interfaces that are compatible. And then we have the interfaces that are not compatible. And so with the help of Dominic, Dominic has found an issue with invariant characters in password in a 7.6 system. Not sure if you have tested if it's present in 7.5, but maybe it should be good to avoid invariant characters in password. So we have an issue in the French system, which was not found in your system, in English system. So it's, yeah. Okay, so the interfaces that are not very good or very bad, maybe it could change in the future, I don't know. So every password technique that has a catch, doesn't work very well, or not at all. So these are the lists, and IBM called that hostile interfaces. On the net server side, so typically you got error, system error, if you try just to connect with a password that requires TOTP. It means that for those users, they cannot do any more net server. And then we have the interfaces that simply ignore the TOTP value. And then the ones that Kerberos and SSH using keys. But we have other alternative solutions in case we need, but not the TOTP one. You can use the exit point, so I will talk a little bit later about the exit point, and the function to prevent impersonations. Okay, so now let's focus on the interval parameter, because up to now it seems pretty simple, the project, right? So we have a user that is TOTP, but no interval. No interval means that anytime this user is authenticating on the system, he has to provide a TOTP code, anytime. So if we try, it works for Telnet, for FTP, for example. I haven't checked every interface. But if we use any, I would say, ACS protocol, it fails, every. Okay. It fails because of the infrastructure, of the architecture of ACS, right? Of the servers that are exchanging together. So let's see how it works if I change the interval. Again, okay, what I should say is default. So you haven't activated a special configuration called HCS. We will see what is HCS later. So now let's make a variation of this interval and see how it works. Okay, so in this example, we put 30 minutes. What does it mean, 30 minutes? It means that at the time you authenticate with a TOTP, there will be some sort of counter that is decreasing. It allows you as a user to authenticate with simply the password for 30 minutes. But during the cycle of 30 minutes, if you authenticate again with a TOTP, we reset the cycle, the remaining minutes, and we continue to decrease. That's how it works. So I call that the magic variable, because at the time you just put something else, it works. Right. But back to this user, remember this scenario, no interval, it fails on the ACS servers. Now I configured HCS. HCS required TLS activated, so you have to put a certificate on this special server. And this server, in fact, is some sort of a gateway connected to other related ACS servers. So you connect directly to this server, and then it's transferring the connections to the related servers. If you take a look, that's the new job now in 7.6, QZBS CNN server. And then at the time you are connected to it, then it's transferring to all these jobs. We know these jobs, okay? So they are transferring to all these jobs. So in fact, this one is automatically the token, or I don't know how it works under the cover, but you don't have to go for every server. It's automatically transferred. So that's also maybe the best. I don't know if you, Marius and Steve, what you think about that, but at least you have two options. That's and the good thing also that we don't know exactly the future of MFA, so maybe there will be some change. So it's good to know both. All right, so tu me dis si ça va? 5? Oh, okay. So those features are very important. Impersonation, we see this is the weak piece of MFA. So again, how it works. So I am Guy, for example, I can become GM Sales 01, which is part of the sales group, and I can change the TOTP of a different guy because I am an all object user profile. If I have a special, just private authority on this user, I can do a submit job for just to just on these two examples. If I activate the function, this one, to my group, so this is the group of the GM sales 01, just in one instruction, I don't have to go for every member, it works for the group, and I just hit denied. So every member of this group, will be denied. So the impersonation will be blocked, whether it's running from set session authorization or submission. The good thing for this is that you can audit, so you can predict what would be a legitimate impersonation. And personally, I would love that IBM, and I will put an idea on it, I would love that IBM put a default value of denied on this function, because it's our responsibility, like many other IBM I configuration values, to make something stronger versus just, you have to think about for every user you are adding, you have to do that. So IBM did a good job with that. So maybe it's a time maybe to let us decide if we change to reverse, the behavior of this function. But this is still good, and it should be part of your rollout, absolutely. All right, so the audit trail is updated as well. So the PW entry, which requires authority failure to be activated, has been updated. So you have now new violation types available. The CP entry also has now a key command type that shows you every change on the key. You have the value before, the value after. So you can exactly know, even from an impersonation, you can know exactly what has been done. Right. I put just the VP here for the net server to show you that there is nothing, because net server is not, or not yet, compatible with MFA. And the counters. So how works the counters in the user profile? So the counter authentication attempt not valid, how it is updated. So if we take a look at the interval 0, anytime we put a bad password or a bad token, we increment the counter. If we provide a good password plus good token, we reset the counter. This is the same thing if we do that with an interval. But the slightly different thing is that if we do the same with an interval, but we are inside the cycle, then if you just provide a good password and a bad token, you reset the counter. All right, and then the remaining minutes, yes, that's the second counter, but you already understand how it works, this one. And for me, the best, okay, I'm a big fan of exit points, but the best is this one. I was dreaming on it for many years. With Carol, we talked about it, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago. This is the universal authentication exit point. For those of you who have played with exit points, you know it's a nightmare because every exit point is different. It's really, yeah. And some have no exit point as well, so it's difficult to have something completely strong. So this one is really a big benefit because it's independent from MFA. Totally, you can use it outside of that. Okay, it's activated user per user. Maybe I would love to have it also on the system level, but fine. I mean, at least this is possible to do that for every user outside of MFA. If you have another security solution, in this room, we have 3 vendors that have a MFA solution that is different from IBM. We have IBM for, I don't know, Thibault. Okay, we have IBM. We have Kisco, we have Precisely. There are 3 vendors that are providing MFA solution available for before 7.6, of course. And it's good also to look at these solutions simply because of that. The NIST document is really picky about the HOTP and the TOTP, and it's not recommended for very strong sensitive data protection. They say that we have to go upper than just that. So if you need to have a stronger solution, The exit point can be leveraged and used to, for example, the RSA. Okay, that's another example. To challenge with RSA, you can do that through the exit point. If you have both the TOTP and the exit program, then it goes first to the TOTP, and after that goes to the exit point. But for me, when I play with the exit point, which is quite easy to code, honestly, I do it, I don't know, 2 hours of coding. This is important because I realize at the end of my testing that this project can be easy or can be a nightmare. And how can you avoid to go into a nightmare? This is to run this exit program, or that's an idea. This is to run the exit program just to get the list of all your authentication families. And if you feel that in this capture, you feel that there are authentications that are not compatible with MFA, you will see it before starting. Because if you realize that in the middle of the project, it's not a good thing to do. So this can be helpful for that. Okay, so I am done.
Normalement, je pense que si tu restes pas longtemps.
Non, j'ai fini.
Ouais.
Okay, so this is also, I let you read that, but this is how the exit program data is performed from different cases when you add TOTP and exit program, so how it works. Yeah, that's about it. And again, when I'm thinking of that, so it's important also for example, Raoul will be in front of all these users that are complaining, it doesn't work. So for a few weeks, we will really need a tool that helps us to explore in a multi-criteria process. For example, what are the guys that have a sign-on not available? For example, they have a lot of tries, attempts. So I need to discover that quickly, to call the guy and say, hey, what's wrong with you? And, so I build a table function. I call that check MFA. It can be used for the user that is requiring it, or it can be used by the administrator and get a multi-criteria list of users that need help, or users that need maybe to have some sort of rework. So I'm happy to share this table function with people that need that. That's it. So I believe that there will be some next step from IBM, and maybe we expect to have something something stronger. No, so thank you very much. That's it. Merci.